Musical Talk, the UK's independent musical theatre podcast at the Edinburgh Fringe. And today we start with a song from the marvellous musical Armada. And welcome to Musical Talk. I'm Thos, the man who will be remembered by history as... Go on, you must remember. You know, the bald, boring one. No? Well, talking about history is entirely the right thing to do for this week's episode. The strange irony of life is that we think that we're marching into the future, when in fact what we're really doing is parking ourselves into history. And today's episode is all about shows that relate to things and people from the past. As you know, the Edinburgh Fringe has gone, but Musical Talk lingers on, either like a lovely melody or like a nasty smell. I leave it to you to decide. But as over the next few weeks we continue to go through some of the interviews about some of the best shows that I saw in Edinburgh at the Fringe this year, you will recall that I have attempted in an entirely arbitrary way to link them thematically. And so today's subtitle is A View of the Past, because today we're looking at two very special, very wonderful, very excellent musicals, both musicals incidentally that I have seen twice and will be very happy to see again, which deal with events and real people from the past, but in two remarkably different ways. The first is Armada, and the second is Gilbert and Sullivan, the musical. Now, I know not everyone's a Gilbert and Sullivan fan, but hang around for that conversation, because this is a musical and not an operetta. But first to business. We're going to go in chronological order, so the honours for starting the show go to Armada. Bearing in mind that almost everyone in the story has been dead for 400 years, I think we can safely say that it is truly anchored into the past, and particularly into English rather than British history, as it relates to the attempted invasion of England, then ruled by Elizabeth I, by the fleet of Philip II of Spain, in order to depose her and put a Catholic monarch on the throne. And what a good idea for a musical. It's set in those heady, lusty, vibrant days of the late Tudor period. Under good Queen Bess, considered by many to be a golden age of English history, it features an attempted invasion where plucky, smaller country wins forth, very much with echoes of the Second World War. But most of all, of course, it's a story where the essential highlights, at least if not the detail, is widely known to the public. And the same, of course, is true of the musical Armada, because those of you with long memories, but not short tempers, will recall that I've discussed it a couple of times here on Musical Talk. It was on last year in a slightly condensed version at the Edinburgh Fringe, and then it had been developed fully, and it's actually had a small national tour, having been put on in its final version at the New York New Musical Theatre Festival, and subsequently to that, before coming to Edinburgh again for 2013. And it bore repeated viewing, because I enjoyed it last year, and I loved it this year. I had a chance to speak in depth on the creation and development of this fantastic British musical, Armada, with Rob Winlow, the creator of that show. And he's very kindly said that we can play a few more tunes. So first we'll hear another song from this very successful, very strong score, and then you'll hear my interview with the lovely and always interesting Rob Winlow about Armada, and quite a lot else. Musical Talk Rob, lovely to see you again.
And you again.
And lovely to see your show again, if I may say, because Armada is back here in Edinburgh, fresh from the York Musical Festival, the brand new York Musical Festival.
Yeah.
And it's slightly changed upon last year, as we previously discussed, but I've seen it, and it's brilliant, let's be honest. I think you've I mean, everything, nothing ever gets to the end of its development in real terms.
Yeah.
But actually, I think you've got an absolutely solidly entertaining, marvellous show.
Brilliant, thank you.
Are you happy with your current version?
Yeah, I'm very happy with it. It's the biggest difference, of course, is the use of the projection. We use it as a backdrop, and we also have scenes, the Spanish scenes with it, and that seems to tie in well. It saves us doubling up on cast members, and gives us a little bit of a breather in the wings as well.
Well, actually, I tell you what it does, it broadens your horizons as well, doesn't it? Because every show is trapped by its staging to a degree. And yours is a big expanse, for a start. A lot of it's set on the sea, and that's quite difficult to carry off. But you've got sort of projections of a battle, so you actually do get a sense of being at sea in that sense, and you also do feel that you're cutting to Spain, and the action is enhanced by it.
Good, thank you. I mean, the biggest stumbling block with covering a subject like the Armada is where are the ships, where are the boats? So we managed to cover that with a little bit of footage on screen.
Well, you've done better than Titanic on the matter, because that's the problem with Titanic as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you just see the bow. And
unless there's someone in the wings with a water pistol, you just don't get the real sense of it.
Yeah.
But you've got this fantastic, I assume it must be computer-generated sort of, Armada with variable camera shots. The camera swirls around from above. You get the aerial view of an Armada coming towards the southern coast, and then it goes round and into the ships. And it's actually a remarkable piece of technical gubbins, I think is the official term I'm looking for.
Thank you. Yes, we have a very kind and very clever person who's put all this together for us. Thank you.
But so you did the filming, I think, in York.
In York, yes.
And some fantastic buildings. They are sort of medieval enough to make you feel you are in the court of the King of Spain.
We were a little spoilt for choice, really. I mean, there's the Merchant Adventurers Hall, Merchant Tailors Hall, Merchants this, Merchants that, and it's all period.
It's all panelling, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah.
Now, how did York go for you?
The best thing about York was that we got the thing off the ground. The festival, I'm absolutely delighted that we had 8 shows with 12 different performances. The audiences weren't great, but the thing was, we got the thing going, and we're on the map now.
That's the point. You were asking people to come to something of which they weren't aware previously.
Yes.
Whereas next year they have no excuse.
Yeah. That's right. We've got a little track record now, and people know that we're not going to pull out at the last minute, and it's going to go ahead.
And things like that do make a very sensible, and it's a great support. So people know that we were talking that someone's there to help them book the rooms, and you're reliable, and it's all going to come out fine.
Yeah.
I think you and Jim and everyone involved in it deserve so much praise for bringing something new to the British cultural calendar.
Well, Jim's put in an awful lot of work on it and will continue to do so. I was particularly impressed with the attitude that the various companies came to the festival with. We had a show from London, Lady Luck, who I think you know.
And yes.
That's right. And one of their cast actually fell ill the day before performance. So they changed their musical into a concert version, and the composer was able to take on her role and play and sing along.
So the show did go on.
It went along.
Also, but that, forgive me, that's... Well, first of all, that shows great professionalism on their part to make something of it. But also having the structures, we said, that come with the show, with the festival itself, also gave them the opportunity, presumably, it's easy to cancel, but it's better to stay on the road.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you know you've got that infrastructure helping you, that's marvellous.
Yeah, they strung it all together with very limited rehearsal time. They didn't have a rehearsal space, so they used the room next to us in York.
Which is exactly like a festival, isn't it?
Yes.
People in telephone boxes singing.
I'm not kidding though. They had 20 minutes on the piano for their rehearsal.
That was it.
The day of the show, and that was in our coffee break.
Oh, you've got to admire some people's sort of drive to get their things on. But how did Armada do in York?
Armada went well.
It's a known commodity there, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. We're quite well known in York now, and we had 2 shows there. and then we had a preview at Goole Junction as well, just before coming up here.
So you have had your tour.
We've had our mini tour, yes. Yeah.
Now, I've got to ask you this. Did you learn, because obviously you know the show backwards, like the back of your hand, you've been doing it for a while, but did you learn anything from the York production and on to Goole that then helped feed into your Edinburgh? Because you just started here in Edinburgh as we record this, a few days now.
Well, they were both. They're all quite different because of the venue technicalities. I mean, for example, at York, we couldn't practice going without mics, radio mics, because of the size of the venue, so we used them, and the balance then created another issue.
They bring advantages, but they bring disadvantages.
They do, yeah. And then at Goole, we ran without mics, but the backing tracks, but then the positioning of the speakers in the auditorium meant that you could hear nicely at the back and the front, but the balance was wrong in the centre. But apart from that, and the positioning of our major prop and staging the chair,
yes,
everything is pretty much the same.
And you know the venue, of course. You're in St Augustine's, aren't you? Or Paradise in Augustine's.
Paradise in Augustine's, yeah.
I love the venue. It's got an upstairs auditorium and a downstairs auditorium. You're in the downstairs auditorium again, which is slightly compartmentalised, as we've discussed before. But actually, it works quite well. It gives us. It's funny enough. It's got character. It gives a sense of space. I think
it does give a sense of space. It doesn't get too hot.
No, it doesn't.
And the acoustics are really pretty good.
They are.
I mean, the upstairs, the sanctuary, there's a lot of curtaining and high ceilings, so I think you lose a lot. And I do think you probably need to be mic'd up there, but we get away with it in the studio, and the tracks and the singing balance quite nicely.
You also get intimacy. And that really makes a difference, I think. You
do.
You feel that you're on front row seats wherever you sit in
very close. Yeah, very close. Yeah, there's no walk around at the back either. So if you make the wrong exit, you're trapped.
Yes, there are several doors that lead to nowhere, presumably.
Yes.
And you, but because it's slightly compartmentalised, you've also got something I've never seen before, but actually it works rather interestingly. You've got dual projection screens because you've got to give everyone sight lines from the audience. So you've got a screen on one side of the sort of the buttress, if you like, and a screen on the other. Yeah. And they're slightly differently lit, I noticed. One's got more of a red glow, and one's got more of a blue glow. And actually, from an audience point of view, it's quite interesting because you're getting the same imagery, but with a slightly different mood, if that makes sense. Right. So you, almost as an audience, like a multiple choice. If I feel that we're at sea, I'll look at the blue one, and if I feel we're in the Court of Rome, I'll look at the slightly red one.
That's good. Yeah. We did use the red and the blue, didn't we, last year for Dee's corner and the Spanish corner. But we've missed a trick this year, with the screens. I mean, they are rather loosely hanging.
Yes.
And if only we'd thought about it, we could have had them in the shape of a sail.
Oh Lord, yes, you're right. So you could be projecting onto one of the nearby.
Had a little bit of rigging up there, yeah.
Or something for next year then. Now, let's talk about the characterisations again. I mean, you've got mostly the same cast you had last year, so everyone's very, very comfortable in their role. I'm going to start with you, though, if I may, Rob, because I said it last year and I'm going to say it again. You've got a plum of a part. Dr. D is splendid. I think I actually said this last year, but if Rex Harrison wasn't available, then you're the perfect person for it. It feels... Well, I love the songs you've got. There's such a, there's a twinkle in your eye because we get to see the fuller version this time. But you've still got small sort of elements of pushing the plot along, which you've got real license to do. The audience have immediately bought into Dr. D. You get the fantastic song about manipulation, which I enjoyed so much last year. It's a tour de force, and. As we've spoken about previously, you've sort of clarified the character is now, he's a very high politician in his own way.
Yes.
He's a psychologist in his own way. He knows how to read a room and play up and flatter and speak to the right people and ignore the other people who don't need to be listened to. And he knows how to make the best advantage to himself, but he doesn't actually have any magical powers.
That's right.
And I love that.
Yeah.
Forgive me, Dr. D is now perfect, and you are perfect as Dr. D.
Completely bogus. Yes.
But you're not it's not a hateful character. It's a lovable bogusness, if I may say.
Thank
Boguosity?
you.
I have no idea what the phrase is.
Boguosity. Boguosness. Yes.
It's a dream part, isn't it, in some ways?
Oh, I love playing D. Absolutely love him, yes. Yeah, I mean, you can have tremendous fun with him. The songs are not too demanding, which is perfect.
You say that, but, they're full of character.
Well, yes, they're just a little wordy, that's all. But yes, I love the idea of him being able to manipulate Sarah for his own gain, and it seems to hold together, hopefully quite well.
Oh no, I think it does. Actually, the relationship, I think, is because she's such an ingenue almost, isn't she? She's sweet and she believes, and she is doing what she's doing for the best. You know, she defeats the Armada in her own special way, and she's prepared to put her life at risk. It's a good character. It's a good part for a woman, actually. I mean, let's face it. You've got two very good parts for women. You've got Sarah, and Queen Elizabeth I.
Queen Elizabeth,
who I know I banged on about before, but she, your actress who plays Elizabeth I,
Jessa.
She's fabulous.
Yes.
I mean, she looks the part. She has majesty, if I may say, which is what you need in that role.
Yeah.
But she also, I tell you what you get with it. You get the nobility and the majesty of the part, but you get the humanity as well, because she's nobody's fool.
Yes.
She knows.
You get the steely side.
Yeah, she can be flirted with. She's got a sense of humour. She'll make a joke, and whilst everyone will laugh sycophantically with her, she knows that. You know, she's a real person in the role of Queen as the character, and then your actress brings that out in spades. It's masterful. I'm going to go through them one by one now, pretty much, because I like them all. Your Queen is perfection, and she just looks marvellous. And your Sir Francis Drake is every inch the ruddy seaman, and he has a kind of earthiness about him as a character, which fits that part perfectly.
Yes.
And even down to the slightly saucy Roger that as a kind of both an innuendo and yes, I agree with what you're saying kind of statement. You know, it's they're beautifully well drawn.
Yeah, we're very lucky that Roger that does actually feature from that age, that period. So it's quite useful to. I mean, Russell, who plays Drake, has been in numerous shows. I don't think there can be many musicals current musicals that he hasn't featured in, and has terrific singing voice. But yeah, he relishes the role, and he's a good team player as well. He's good for bringing on the young ones in the cast as well.
But I think your cast has come on splendidly anyway. I mean, the chap who plays Sir Thomas Walsingham has got a certain. When I say, I don't mean this to sound negative to the actor, but he has a kind of sort of. I want to say the word ratty. There's a certain, and I don't mean in The Wind of the Willows, I mean as in a kind of, you know, he is a cynical, supporting.
Yes.
And the actor, I'm sure the actor is charm itself, but he brings out that slightly shifty nature that Sir Thomas Walsingham has got in this.
He does.
Is it Sir Francis or Sir Thomas? I'm so sorry. Which Walsingham are we talking?
Lord Walsingham.
Let's call him Lord Walsingham.
Lord Walsingham.
Can't remember his first name.
Yeah, I think it is Francis. Yeah.
I think, yeah.
But he's my son actually.
So he's what?
Walsingham's my son.
Oh,
Will.
is he?
Yeah.
Splendid. Well,
and I still haven't worked out whether it's him playing the role or just having a permanent actor smirk on his face.
But because you get the sense that, you know, you do get a sense of that Walsingham being a conniver and a move around the darker corners of the court for his own advantage as well as that of the state. And, you know, the dance. The figurative dance that you as Dr. D has with Walsingham is marvellous. You know, you're sort of jockeying for position, but you have charm and he doesn't, and that's why you win out. It's yes, into characters.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine there was a lot of skullduggery and political goings on in the wings and so on, and cloak and dagger stuff, and
particularly when power comes from favour.
Yes.
I mean, it always has and always will, but more profoundly then, because it's autocratic favour, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm just a little concerned that he never seems that worried about his own neck during the show, and he should be.
Yeah. Oh, I see the point. Although, I mean, Walsingham was famously, in real life, you know, the master of his craft, so he's, you know, and he is bringing all the intelligence over from Spain. I mean, Walsingham gives the facts, which then actually lay the context for Dee to help defeat the Armada through Sarah. So actually, you know, they work together even though they don't like it.
That's right. All the spy techniques and the spy networks that they had going at the time, which incidentally came out of his pocket. The Queen was very stingy.
Yes.
So the Treasury were anyway, and he masterminded all of that and all the codes that they used as well. It was quite advanced stuff.
He's actually quite an impressive and important man in British history, or English history, I should say. Now, let's talk about the score. Now, because I love the score, I enjoyed it last year, and I tell you what it's got staying power, because I found myself humming various songs throughout the year, actually, interestingly.
Wow.
Particularly the opening number,
England or Rome.
Yeah, exactly, the one where you're,
with the motorbike start.
Yeah. Oh yes, but that brings up that sound. We've spoken about the hustle and bustle and the noise in the background of Tudor England. I like that. I like that full soundiness. But that song has got. But there were beautiful harmonies in other numbers as well. I mean, and there's. I think it's the song you finale with, which is Armada.
Yeah.
And you've got this lovely moment where everyone in the cast is standing in a row and they all sing a scale one by one, as it were.
That's right.
But with to perfection, if I may say, that filled the room, and it was wonderful. And I've never actually heard that kind of orchestration before.
Oh, good.
I'd have thought that's the kind of thing I'd have seen at the West End all the time, but no. But it worked brilliantly. Is that your arrangement?
It is, yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well, very good.
Yeah, we devised that. Edward, my other son, he and I worked together on that one, and I'm pleased to say it does seem to work reasonably well. It's just the timing and where you stand. If you're standing in order, it's easy. When you're standing out of order,
knowing where, yes, it's like those people who used to play and they used to bring on a trolley full of bells, handbells, and then they used to play incredibly intricate songs just by picking up the bells in apparently random order. Yeah, quite. So I understand what you mean by that, but it comes across. It's the venue is perfect for the sound, and your cast really bring it across. I mean, how comfortable are you with harmonies, both writing them and sort of musically directing them? Because it's not everyone can do it.
No, that's true. And
yours are complex and extensive.
Well, they are complex, and I think the trick is to absolutely ingrain the tune in individuals' minds, what their particular part is. First of all, don't let them hear the rest of the song or all the harmonies together, just their part.
So they sing it themselves rather than rely on somebody else?
Yes.
That's quite clever.
I mean, last year, just as an example, there was the duet Far Too Soon, and Rhys was having problems with his part, so we bumped up the volume on his part on a recording, and that helped him a little. However, we used that to teach both Victoria and James the part this year, and they both ended up singing the louder part.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
But now Armada comes twice in the show, doesn't it? When at the point the Armada comes properly, and then as a finale, if you like. And it got an enormous roar. I mean, it's a strikingly strong song, beautifully put across, and the audience responded. It was, we're talking about the protection of the state in real terms. If the Armada had been successful, we would be a very different country now.
It would be very different, totally
even in Scotland, although it was an English thing, it would have affected the history of the British Isles and the United Kingdom. So it's a really important part, and in some sense there is that kind of anthemic's not right. It's not the right word, but it's the power that an anthem has. It's when I'm actually making the mime of a closed fist to show the power of it. It's a powerful song.
It is rousing.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
Well, it has been, hasn't it?
It has been, yeah. And I don't think you've heard that recording, have you?
No, I don't think I have.
You don't have that one, no. No, we haven't a decent recording of it, actually.
You must.
The original show was okay. I'll tell you what is a problem this year for us. We have. I'm singing tenor. I'm actually a bass.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's not just a jump to baritone, then, is it?
No, it's very tricky, and especially when you've been doing a few songs on the mile beforehand.
The throat's a bit...
Yeah, you have to sing much louder outside to be heard, so...
Yes, it's unamped out there as well, isn't it?
Yeah, unamped, but it's so far so good, it's holding up.
Well, I tell you what, I didn't spot any strain at all. I mean, if you're not singing your natural range, then it's not coming across.
Yes, well, it's been a while since I've practiced my castrato.
Well, depends on how you want to take it, really, absolutely. Now, let's talk about the Edinburgh experience for you, because you've just spoken about being on the mile. Now, for the people who haven't been to Edinburgh, there is it's the Royal Mile. It's the walk up from between the castle and Holyrood House is technically the route.
Yeah.
A section of it is closed to traffic, and that is basically leafleting city and showcasing moments, isn't it? It's there are 2 or 3 little portable stages which look all the world like well, they are essentially sort of trays on wheels, aren't they, with tiny
Yeah.
little canopies, and you can sort of, they have a run. Everyone's given, well, people who want it can apply for 20 minutes to showcase
That's
themselves.
right, yep.
And then if you're not actually on that little area showcasing by singing and things like that, people are wandering up and down in costume, handing out flyers, or just being looked at. So that's so much part of the Edinburgh experience, both for a member of the public to walk down and get the feel and flavour and taste and see what they might like to see, but also for you as performers and cast and crews, because that's where you get to show off your wares. What's it like? I mean, do you worry about going on the mile, or is it an invigorating thing?
No, we enjoy it. We enjoy it. We're very lucky that our costumes are very eye-catching.
You're the best dressed cast in Edinburgh this year, I don't mind telling you that.
Thank you.
Without doubt.
Thank you. We do seem to attract a lot of people just through the costumes alone. If we just stand there, we will have an arc of people taking photographs. So we don't have to go to them with the flyers, they come to us.
Really? You are the honeypot?
We've had several people have photographs of the whole group. Now me, now me, now me. How much do we owe you?
And
they're quite happy to pay us. I mean, we don't take anything. They
You
just
give
take
the
a
flyer,
leaflet.
Though. Yes, Come and see the show and see the costumes move.
Yes, yeah. So and then when we sing a song, they tend to stick around a little bit as well. So that works well for us.
Harmonies do draw people in. Now tell me, as the man behind the show and the musical director and Dr. D, so much the important part. Is it you who makes a decision on what songs are to be sung on the mile, or are you more collegiate about that? You think that these...
Well, we've tried the solos and they don't work.
Is that just the volume
It's
thing?
too quiet, yeah. You can't be heard. And we don't really want to go down the mic and amp route, really. So it's just belting out the chorus numbers, really, and which the Armada chorus is a bit hard on the voice for all of it. It is, yeah.
Oh, well,
so we do that once.
Yeah.
We do that once, but we sing the others maybe 2 or 3 times. So.
Well, I stumbled across you quite by chance yesterday on the mile, and I wasn't expecting to see you there, but there you were, so I hung around and watched, and it was fabulous. And you did England or Rome, that song, and it was lovely. And I noticed you own the space as well, because you had a couple of people on the little actual stage, the one on wheels.
Yes.
Which I think of as a hostess trolley, essentially. But also you'd actually inhabited the area in front, so you'd taken up, the area was yours, and there was a little arc of people around. Even though the weather was turning a little bit, wasn't it? Because
it was.
The rain was
a bit
about to come.
blustery and showery.
And you had your Armada umbrella, which is
the
Armada. Yes,
Ella.
It's a fantastic. It's a huge umbrella with the posters on the.
That's right. It's very eye-catching.
It certainly is.
Yeah. We brought up a ghetto blaster, but with so much competing noise on either side, or north, south, east, and west, I had to go out and buy a really meaty piece of kit, so we will not be drowned out anymore.
The Armada is going to win. And the response has been positive, hasn't it? So you've had the photographs and people listen and they take them. I like the fact they come to you for the flyers, but it seems to be quite daunting because it's a totally different performance environment to a theatre.
Yes.
You are, as you say, you're competing literally within a metre of your sort of little zone. There are people juggling or screaming or rolling on the floor in towels or whatever it is their act is.
Yeah, we're all fighting for attention. Look at me, mummy, and it's very, very difficult indeed. And I think last year we spent a lot of time going up and just handing out flyers to people, which doesn't really work.
In a way, if they're coming to you, that's good, because at least they are, at least there's a moment of interest. And that can be the kernel of, the father of the act, isn't it?
Yeah.
The idea. So,
but if you take the blunderbuss approach, it doesn't work, because you've seen the programme and how thin the section for musicals is.
It is, yes.
It's mostly comedy, so your audience is very well defined. So we have to be very focused on that, really.
Although there are people out there, because many of my friends who are up here, who I've bumped into or I've spoken to, they are here for the drama or they're here for the musicals.
Yeah.
A lot of people not resent the comedy festival, which is on at the same time, but I think there is a certain dissatisfaction that the comedy festival is where the names are. It's where the press tends to go. Certainly the media focuses overly on the big name comics as though they needed it. I mean, I'm sure David Baddiel is an excellent comic, but the press doesn't need to. Big stars don't need the stars, actually, funnily enough. It is the smaller shows or the drama or the other things that it would be a pity. It's a pity they're not focused on more.
Yes.
But there are dedicated drama and musicals fans up here, and it's not just me, I'm pleased to say. There are many like-minded and, may I say, sensible people. So
forgive me, last year you came up to Edinburgh and you were here for the earlier part of the festival.
Oh, yeah.
It's 3 weeks, although it sometimes divides itself into 2 halves. This time you're here for the second half.
Yeah.
Without going into too much detail, forgive me, how does a theatrical group, an established group with an established show, bring itself up to Edinburgh? Because it's expensive.
Yeah.
Mostly, I know actors all live in the same house, and
Yeah.
that can be good and it can be awkward. Forgive me, how are you finding your day-to-day Edinburgh experience?
Our day-to-day Edinburgh experience is very positive, I have to say. It's physically occurring.
Yes.
And
yes, people do have bags under their eyes by the end of the run,
I think
don't
all
they?
shows must feel that. I mean, you seem to be walking for miles every day and grabbing food whenever you can, and as you've already pointed out, it's not always the healthiest food. You end up scoffing.
I'm leaving Edinburgh tonight, actually, as we record this, purely to get a salad.
Yes, I have found some salads in Sainsbury's, so they
can be found.
Yeah, they can be found. That's right. Team, we're all in the same block. We're all in the same flats
So
together.
how many of you come up?
There are 9 of us all together, 7 cast, 2 technicians, and we all have flats on the same floor in this student accommodation. It's absolutely brilliant.
Oh, it's almost like a suite.
Yes, it is. Yeah, we've taken over two flats, each with 4 rooms in them, and self-contained kitchens.
Actually, that's a relatively luxurious
It is,
Edinburgh
actually.
experience.
It's quite
if I may
nice,
say.
yeah.
Sometimes people merely just put a plank over the top of the bedstead and make a bunk bed. I've noticed that.
I've heard that, yeah. But I think, in order to be able to keep yourself well and healthy, which I think is the secret for being in Edinburgh, keeping well, looking after yourself, we need good digs, really.
Yes, you do. You also need to have a space which you can call your own. So the idea of actually having a little room within there that's your own sanctuary is such a good idea. It's funny, I've spoken to many performers and they're saying that when we were younger and we first came up here as students, we used to do our show and then go off and get drunk and feel grotty in the morning, but the shows would suffer.
Yeah.
And they said, but now we're professionals, because a lot of them have gone into professional acting or just still doing it 5 years later, but have a few more, a bit more maturity. They say that actually we don't put ourselves through the ringer anymore. We'll go and see other shows, but we're safely tucked up in bed by 11:30 or whatever it is.
It does help.
Yeah.
It really does help. And although 1 or 2 of the younger ones are just finding that out this time, they've realised now that you can't stay up till 4 or 5 and still put on a great show.
At one end. Absolutely. So you've got a relatively nice accommodation. So did you all come up in a van, or did you come up separately by train?
No, we come up in cars and train, and then all convened at the accommodation.
And you don't have a huge amount of props, but you've got the projections and.
Yeah, it's just the laptops and the costumes were the biggest things, and our major staging is just the chair, really. So fortunately, so
it doubles as a throne if it needs to. Yes, but it's a very versatile chair.
Much travelled, yeah.
So, forgive me then. Just simple things like parking. Have you found?
Well, there's a wonderful website, parkatmyhouse.com.
Oh, is there?
Where you can park in somebody's drive or parking space for the week. Very, very reasonable prices. The public car parks are very expensive.
Yes, you would expect.
Yeah. So I would recommend parkatmyhouse.com to anyone coming up here. Shouldn't have said that. I'll struggle for a space next year.
Well, it's interesting because I travel by train, and so for me the travelling part is relatively simple, and I don't have to worry about parking. Nor am I here in a performing capacity, so I don't have to bring up any costumes apart from what I'm going to wear on a day-to-day basis. And I don't have props, but it amazes me. There are. The enigma of how people do it is amazing to me. That people just bundle everything into a van and they park where they can, and they all live in this box, and they're all on the mile all day. And do you have communal times? Do you say to yourselves, right, we're all meeting for lunch today at 1 o'clock, or do you actually give people freedom apart from when they're performing on the mile?
We generally meet at 11 o'clock every morning, and that gives people a chance to wake up, shower, breakfast, what have you.
Ease themselves into
the morning, that's right. And then we give the notes from the night before and what the plan is for the coming day. Get everybody's thoughts on, it's not just a question of me sitting down and saying, look, you didn't come on the right time and so on. It's very much a collective meeting, and it's a forum for everybody just to chip in and say what they think. So hopefully there is a great sense of teamwork.
Oh, I think that comes across on the stage, but I'm glad it's reflected elsewhere as well.
Yeah.
And then you've got, but presumably there is also flexibility in your schedules to be able to go and see other shows as well, or just disappear off to a gallery, or whatever it is you want to do.
That's right, yeah. Some shows we go and see as a team, others we'll split up on and then come back and compare notes.
Have you managed to get to any shows yet?
Not, only one or two. Yeah, we went to see a play where one of our group fell asleep on my shoulder.
Oh, really? Oh. Everyone's a critic.
Unfortunately, we were on the front row at the time.
Oops.
Yeah.
Mark, I went to see someone reenacting a lecture by that was given in 1853 up here in Edinburgh by John Ruskin, the famous Victorian architect.
Yes.
It was fabulous. I really enjoyed it. But the problem is, there were several people in the audience of all ages who were starting to doze off because they were really comfortable seats.
Yes.
It was in the Scottish gallery and in one of their lecture rooms. So the seats were upholstered. It was comfortable. It was air conditioned. It was very civilised. And the chap playing John Ruskin wasn't jumping up and down and singing and playing the ukulele. He was dressed as a Victorian, and he was giving this very serious, although fabulous, talk on architecture and. It was beautifully done, but sometimes you just find yourself, it catches up with you.
Yeah.
And it sometimes catches up with you in the middle of an audience. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, we're going to see a few shows over the next couple of days, but one show we all enjoyed was Beulah.
Tell us about that.
Beulah is a lovely lilting story. It's a love story, really, with folk music interwoven with very unusual instruments as well. They've got a finger piano and and a very unusual accordion that's sort of a horizontal rather than a vertical squeeze box. Yeah, it's very good.
Traditional instruments, traditional, which are dropped off the.
Yeah, it's lovely story. Very clever ideas with puppetry as well interwoven. Very simple ideas, but very, very clever.
Some people can be very, very ingenious, and it works. It pays off. Limitations often pay off in remarkable ways.
Yeah. It was a two-hander, and I think the blend of the folk music and the folk voices and the harmonies and the storytelling, and a little bit of projection in there as well. It was all worked very well.
And you're all off to see one of your fellow York Musical Festival shows as well, am I right?
Yes, we're going to see Emily Rose this afternoon, Confessions of a Rabbi's Daughter, which I saw in York and was excellent. She also does a show called Synagogue Slut, which I'm not able to see this time because either it clashes with us or she's not doing it this time, but she has two shows.
She wears it on her sleeve, doesn't she?
It's all out there. So she does a little bit of stand-up as well.
It's good to see that the York Festival has acted as a feeder into Edinburgh with at least two shows, which is good.
Yeah. It's the timing of it's quite important. We would like to think that people might come to us as a stopping-off point, a stepping stone to Edinburgh. However, the end of July is not a brilliant time
it's
for
always too
shows.
Close, isn't it? Yes. Because I noticed, your Twitter feed has been asking for the York Musical Theatre Festival. Twitter feed has been asking, when should we hold this next year?
Yes.
Should it be June? Should it be July?
Yeah.
And presumably all answers are welcome. People want to join
Absolutely.
that. Follow that on Twitter. That's a good way of not only finding out what's going to happen, but then plugging in when it does happen.
Yeah, definitely.
Now let's talk briefly about your other show, which isn't here in Edinburgh this year, but was on in York. Are you happy to talk about Austin?
Oh, well, yes, let's talk a little about Austin. Thank you.
How did it go?
It went well. We had the biggest problem we had was a very small audience for a read-through. I suppose it's difficult to get people to come and pay. Maybe we should have done it for nothing, but to pay to listen to rehearsed readings, script in hand. So the feedback was negligible, really.
Limited,
Very, very limited. Yeah, you need that reaction from an audience really to gauge things. So that was the biggest problem. We strung it together with a couple of rehearsals only, and knowing that we did have the comfort of the script in front of us. But as a performance, it went well. It seemed to hold together quite nicely.
So there's something there then. Jolly good.
And I made the big mistake of not reminding the audience that it was a rehearsed reading, and they weren't going to see all the lovely costumes and Jane Austen herself.
Yeah, when she turns up in running shoes and,
yes,
and jogging bottoms.
It didn't. And also the venue is a full-blown proscenium arch.
Oh right.
300-seater.
It's perhaps a bit much for the yes.
It didn't lend itself to a
but it always was a work in progress, wasn't it?
Yes,
so in that sense, it's just getting it performed to see how to you as the author.
Yeah. I mean, there were two shows that were work in progress at the festival, and both were going to be read-throughs. Yeah. However,
and that's exciting. I think.
The other one wasn't, though. They'd learned their bits.
Oh,
so we were the only one. So. But I think we need to look at the venue situation again for next year, really, because shows like that don't feel right in a full theatre. Yeah,
you certainly, the way you described it to me when we last spoke, I got a very strong sense that it was so intimate.
Yes.
That you'll need to find the venue for it.
Yes.
It's quite a contrast, isn't it? Whereas Armada is so big and expansive.
Yes.
And big sound. Big costumes.
That's
let's face it. This is filigree, isn't it?
Yeah.
I do hope you're going to continue plugging away at it, though. Because
yes.
I'm looking forward to Austen at the festival. And I tell you what, there is a market for Jane Austen because you just get talking to people on the mile. People I've never met in my life before, and I'll probably never meet again. You just get talking to, and I remember speaking to several people who said because there's a Jane Austen up here.
Yes.
An adaptation of one of her plays. And there were lots of people saying, we're very keen to see Jane Austen, and look at those people in their, their Arcadian dresses, as the 18th century look.
The one thing I'm always very wary of at the Fringe is that very often it's very edgy and new ideas, and can be quite base and plenty of swearing, good old-fashioned swearing, and we have none of that. And I'm always very wary of that. So I mean, we've jokingly been pondering on the idea of maybe doing a Ladyboys of Shit-Faced Armada version sometime.
Well, I look forward to your air circus. Everyone wearing nothing but their undergarments and hanging down on ribbons.
And if that works, we'll do a version of that for Austen.
Well, the world's waiting for the all-rap Austen musical, aren't they?
Yes.
You say that, and I think you're right at one level, because I actually think that's in some senses, the slightly baleful influence of the comedy festival on the swearing's much more a part, certainly, of the contemporary comedy scene. And there's a place for, like everything, it's any comers here in Edinburgh, and there's a place for swearing, and there's places for not swearing. But actually, I think the core, if you looked at the core audience for the drama and the musicals, the musical is only another form of drama in its sense. Actually, it's a dreadful thing to say, but there's a lot of middle-aged people who come to the festival. I'm a middle-aged person, so I'm not in any way, this is not a pejorative, but people who go to theatre are generally older rather than younger, I think. And there are a lot of people who do want to see traditional shows and speech marks, nice shows, as well as people who want to see the edgier stuff. And that man cannot live by bread alone. If I see a show and the swearing is justified, then that's an entirely appropriate thing.
Yeah.
If it's just being done for the sake of it, then I get irritated by it, because it's like anything else, it's sloppy writing. Whether it's swearing or anything else, it's unnecessary. But I wouldn't worry myself about, Armada is a good, wholesome show, but that doesn't make it anything other than a brilliant show. It's still, that show would not be enhanced by a lot of Spanish Spanish swearing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just on the lines of developmental work as far as shows are concerned. Once you've done it in your hometown and maybe the odd festival here and there, where else do you go with it other than the Fringe?
Well, you are absolutely right on that, and other fringes as well. It's theatre is, in all its forms, it's so rewarding, but it's also a real slog. It is. Once you've started on the treadmill, you stay on the treadmill, I think. And I suppose it's all about attitude and keeping cheerful.
Yeah.
But the product that comes out of your particular mind is splendid. I mean, I think, when I say this, I enjoyed Armada last year, but this iteration is brilliant. It's got better from strength to strength, literally. It's to me, it feels like a show. I mean, let me ask you the question. Cameron McIntosh rings you up unexpectedly out of the blue one day and says, "I've got £30 million I'd like to offer you, Rob. If money was no object, and you could take this to a theatre, what would you do with Armada that would be different?"
It would be lovely to have a full-size boat.
Yes.
I mean, I have seen holograms and 3D projections and so on, and wondered, I desperately wanted to have a hologram of a full-sized galleon right above the audience, and I think that would be wonderful.
That would be fabulous,
That would be wonderful, but I'm not sure it's doable at the moment.
Funnily enough, you probably want to find some Gilbert and Sullivan organisation and borrow their HMS Pinafore when they're not using it. Because there is a similarity there, at least.
Yes.
And, forgive me, if money was no object, would you add a chorus? I mean, because, it's nicely toned, it's perfectly pitched for the number of characters you've got now. You've got 7 characters, essentially.
7 cast, yeah.
And it works perfectly like that.
Yeah.
But, if you had a chorus of the street, a typical Tudor background group of people. I mean, presumably you do that. I mean, I just wondered.
I think a big chorus would work very well.
Yes.
It would work very well.
Because you get your men at war as well, wouldn't you? Your fellow sailors, and then the wives left behind, and the thing is, the show is almost perfect for that. If someone had a lot of money, it would be a good show. You wouldn't be just adding things for the sake of it. You could be adding really meaty.
It would have meat, wouldn't it?
It would. Yeah, and meat is the word.
Put meat
as well
on the
for it,
bone.
I think, absolutely. You could have a second chair.
Heaven forbid.
Now that's just wasteful.
Yeah, or a crystal ball that does actually glow even in the lights.
You've got a great gag out of that, though, don't you? Because and that actually, let's talk about the narrative again then, because there's this lovely gag right at the beginning where Dr. D meets Sarah, and she's got her
having a tutorial. Yeah,
that's right, and she's got a kind of crystal ball, for want of a better phrase, and he wants to show her how to use it, and he claims it to be faulty.
Yes.
And of course he hands it back to her, and the moment she touches it, it lights up. and that's immediately, I mean, if you hadn't got it already, that absolutely says what you need to know, that she's got it and he hasn't. And I'll tell you what, it's another thing as well, because for some reason or other there's a mistaken view it's my belief, it's a mistaken view that some people think that to be serious, to do things seriously, you have to make them humorless, but the seriousness is humorlessness, and it isn't. Now your play is it's not a comedy per se, it is a drama, but it is very light-hearted with it's got I'll tell you what it's got good character comedy and lots of laughs.
Well, that's the holy grail, isn't it?
If
you can get extract humour from the characterisation rather than just one-liners.
Yes, it's not just shoehorning in a gag.
No,
it's making most of a situation or a relationship.
Yeah, if you think of something, there's always the temptation to do that, of course, and sometimes it works, and
if you
sometimes
want Carry
it
On
doesn't.
Sir Francis, then it's you've got that, haven't you?
Yes, Roger that. Yeah.
But Roger, that's nice because it is funny because obviously Sir Francis says that because it feels like a nautical thing.
Yes.
But also there's the less than subtle sort of sexual opportunities.
Yeah.
He says it about the ladies as well.
Yeah.
But that's perfect because that fits his ruddy countenance. I wouldn't expect Dr. D to say that, and he doesn't. No. It's right for the part.
Yeah.
And he's a bolder, brasher character anyway. So
yeah, we're very lucky to have that double-edged sword. It is historically accurate and also has a modern meaning as well. So
the gods have been kind to you with your double entendre, if I may say. But it is very funny. It's a very funny piece, but the humour does not. But is never at the expense of a narrative.
Good.
And I admire you for that. Because that is a pitfall. I've seen other shows, and I won't say their names out loud, but they're from similar periods. Certainly, the 16th and 17th century, in particular, seems to breed this kind of a kind of historical musical. but sometimes they take themselves far too seriously. And I've seen many a show which I have thought have been deathly dull and needn't have been because it's trying to show you the horror of whatever it's trying to do, or the sadness or the difficulty, without realising that human life is human life. You know, and life was short and brutish at some ways in the Tudor. You know, you weren't expected to live a long time, and you might die in battle or whatever it is. But actually, you also get the impression, I certainly do, that, you know, people live life to the full, that they were a sort of a lusty bunch, and you know, that they were going to
probably for that reason.
Yeah, well, have their winches and eat their meat, and go off and, you know,
or vice versa.
Yeah, wench sandwich. You know, it's very popular. Well, there we are. We've moved on to some unusual areas. Now, how can people see Armada here in Edinburgh?
Oh yes, well, we're on at Paradise in Augustine's every evening at 7:55.
And it's a nice venue, so...
It's a lovely venue, yes. We're very comfortable there. We seem to fit in nicely, and they look after us very well.
Which can't be said of all the venues, it must be said. But and your website?
Website is armadathemusical.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, the usual places.
And for people who haven't been able to make it up to Edinburgh, you can hear some of the songs, can't you?
Yeah, you can hear them on the website. Yeah, not Facebook, but on our own website. Yeah, the audio's on there.
And if people want to contact you about the show, because it's a show that's worth putting on, it's also a good Fringe show as well. You know, it's the kind of thing that could, as you say, there's one chair and some nice costumes. It's not too difficult to put on.
It's not too hard, no.
Yeah, so you're happy for people to contact you via the webpage too?
I'd be delighted for them to contact me, yes, that'd be wonderful.
So, Edinburgh will see Armada this year, and we're seeing Armada this year, and it's a wonderful show, and I strongly recommend that people go and see it if they can. Tell me, what more for Armada? Is it going to go in the Chester a bit, or do you think? Probably,
yeah. I mean, it would be nice if some local companies would like to put it on, even amateur companies. Although it's difficult to go for new material. I understand the risks of that. You need to go for the standard shows to sell the tickets, but. I think anybody that came to see it, or anybody attempted to put it on, I'm sure they'd make a good job of it.
Well, this is going to sound like flannel, but it's nothing but truth when I say I would rather see Armada than Camelot or State Fair by Rodgers and Hammerstein. I think Armada is a brilliant show.
Thank you, Thos. Thank you very much. Well, thank you for your support.
Well, I give it where it's deserved. You know, you've done all the work. I've merely turned up and said I think this is a good piece of work, and it really is. So.
Great, thank you.
And I do hope, Rod, that we'll see each other either at next year's York Festival or next year's Edinburgh Festival, perhaps with another show. So do keep writing, please.
Yes, we'll do. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you again.
Sarah, Sarah, if I could, I declare a celestial night when all of the gods would unite to open
Musical talk. There we are, one more song from the fantastic Armada, and of course that fabulous interview with Rob Winlow himself. I don't know if Armada will set sail again. I do hope that it does. It's a show that feels to me that it really has got a life, and I think it could be very easily picked up both professionally or by any amateur group. If you want to hear more or talk to Rob about it, do contact him. It's a show that's well worth thinking about. And it must be said that of all the musical shows I saw in Edinburgh this year, there were two that had songs that lingered in my memory for weeks and weeks and weeks after the festival had finished, to the point where actually they were dancing around my head as I lay in bed or as I washed up. And one of those musicals was Armada. Some of its songs have really got their way into my head in a fabulous way. I don't begrudge it at all. And don't forget, keep an eye out for next year's York New Musical Festival, where hopefully Rob will have further work on, including possibly a new version of his Jane Austen musical, which I'm interested in hearing. And for all of you who consider yourselves to be astronomers, the last word goes, of course, to the star rating. I gave Armada 4 stars and said, full-blooded, feisty and fun. And so it was. Well, the events of the Spanish Armada took place more than 400 years ago. So let's skip forward now to the relative modernity of the Victorian age for our second show. And that's Gilbert and Sullivan, the musical. An intriguing title, you might say. And so it was to me. I was very excited, but also slightly trepidatious about what I was going to see. The word musical just says something a bit more modern than Gilbert and Sullivan to me, so I wondered what I was going to get. Not least because this year there were several variants on the Savoyard tradition actually at the Fringe. If you wanted to see a simple Gilbert and Sullivan operetta, unadulterated if you like, then you could see The Pirates of Penzance put on by Dulog, that's D-U-L-O-G, the Durham University Light Opera Group. And until that happy day when somebody stumbles across the lost score to Thespis, the missing Gilbert and Sullivan operetta, then the holy grail for fans of Gilbert and Sullivan pieces is, well, creating new Savoy operas. There have been several attempts, none of which have ever really made it successfully in the past. But there was one up in Edinburgh this year, called A Midsummer Night's Savoy. And as you can see, they'd taken several characters from Gilbert and Sullivan operetta and inserted them fairly loosely into the story of Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream. Add together the character of Puck from that story to cast a bit of magic, and import the fairies from Iolanthe into that story where fairies certainly fit, and use the original songs from various Gilbert and Sullivan operetta, occasionally slightly changed, but perhaps not enough, it must be said, and you get an attempt to create a new Savoy opera. So that's the second way, and you could have seen that in Edinburgh as well. But the third way is to take Gilbert and Sullivan and do something very different with it indeed. So do something that's true to the fun of the operettas and the fans of the operettas, but do it in a way that isn't necessarily hidebound by the original works. And that's what Gilbert and Sullivan, the musical, did. And so if you'd gone along, you would have seen a fabulous cast of 6 people, that's 3 fellas and 3 women, playing Gilbert, Sullivan and D'Oyly Carte, Mrs. D'Oyly Carte, and 2 members of the female chorus. And they were telling in very loose terms, broad brush in a slightly heightened performance way, but hugely bristling with fun and brio, the story of the stormy relationship and partnership between Gilbert and Sullivan and D'Oyly Carte, in forming a series of comic operettas which are still being put on all over the world, and long may they continue to do so. So how did they do it? Well, the music was by Sullivan himself, and indeed taken from the operetta. But all the words were new, so they weren't tinkering with Gilbert. And in a way, tinkering with Gilbert is the worst thing you can do with Gilbert. Either use Gilbert completely, or just chuck out Gilbert completely and start again. And that's what they did. And because they did that, I didn't object at all. It wasn't trying to rewrite Gilbert. It was using completely new lyrics, which did not relate to the original lyrics. It wasn't an attempt at Cod Gilbert. It was an attempt at new, modern British lyrics relating to the story of 125 years ago, and the, as I say, tempestuous relationship between Gilbert Sullivan and D'Oyly Carte. To give you a flavour of the show, here's a song from it. Fans of the Gilbert and Sullivan operetta will realise that it's known as In a Contemplative Fashion from the Gondoliers. But the lyrics bear no relation to that, so listen closely. It relates to that point when they know that the partnership is not going to go any further. And you'll be hearing the actors who play Richard D'Oyly Carte, Helen D'Oyly Carte, W.S. Gilbert and Arthur Sullivan. And then after that, I had the pleasure of talking to the two co-directors and co-writers, that's Tom Scallon and Detty Ellaby, as well as the choreographer, Nicola Cors, and the man who played Gilbert with such energy, Joshua Clark. So enjoy this song, and then I hope you'll enjoy this, I think, very light-hearted, amusing and yet informative interview with those four fabulous people. Musical talk.
We can see our time is ended, as we knew one day it would. We did more than we intended, more than was for our own good. When the time should come to split us, as it will, and some say soon, we know some friendships it bitters, ours we hope will stay in tune.
I should hope we're left to understand a portion of our road. Yet if we end here, I ponder what would have been the next road.
I will read your sorrows in number times, see this may be through. See the edge of this cash cow as we bring back Naggy Blue.
Though my head is full of plot lines, they so often disagree. So revive our former glories and count up those entrance fees.
Though I don't see future work here, as I've said time and again, I'll continue in a new sphere and my grand opera I'll pen. In this new sphere, my grand opera I'll pen.
But one more is still left in us, we won't part with too much haste.
A little more writing, a little less fighting, for anything else would just seem like a
Yet there's something quite appealing in us quitting while ahead.
We can't let it end now, and we're so on trend now, and many an audience tear will be shed.
Perhaps we've got to let the strangers venture in its face.
But that's all I cued it. I'm sure we're not through here to keep this alive. I'm sure there are ways. If we put our heads together, there'll be something.
So you make the others it was, don't you think I should push them much further apart?
But that's all I cued it. I'm sure we're not through
Future work here, as I've said time and again.
That's all I cued it. I'm sure we're not through to keep this alive. I'm sure we're not through.
We know some friendships it bitters, ours we hope will stay in tune.
I'm Nicola Cors, but mostly known as Nick, and I'm the choreographer for Gilbert and Sullivan the musical at Greenside this year.
Hello, my name is Joshua Clark and I'm playing Gilbert in Gilbert and Sullivan the musical.
Hi, I'm Tom Scallon and I'm co-director and co-writer of Gilbert and Sullivan the musical.
And I'm Detty Ellaby, and I'm the other writer and director.
And Arthur Sullivan unfortunately can't be with us today. I believe he may have been involved in it to a degree. Now, Gilbert and Sullivan the musical, interesting title. Because I think Gilbert and Sullivan, as the parents of musical theatre in some ways, other people disagree, other views are available, but they are certainly the masters of British operetta, if nothing else. The words "the musical" added to the end of it, however, does suggest something else. Can I ask, how did the idea get to be, and what exactly were you looking to do here?
I think we were keen to make people know that it wasn't too serious, that it was going to be about Gilbert and Sullivan, but they could come along and have a good time, and anyone who likes musicals I think would probably like our show. So I think that's what we're probably thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't your view to write a new Savoy opera, was it? It was to write a musical.
It was to write a musical celebrating the Savoy operas, I suppose.
Yeah.
So it's a musical first. I think that's the point. Because
yes.
I must be honest, as a member of the public, I didn't know when I came in. Was I going to get a cod new Savoy opera, of which there are one or two have been up this Fringe, or was I going to see a musical about Gilbert and Sullivan? And of course I'm pleased to say that's what we got, but that's quite an interesting idea, because I'm not sure I've seen that kind of thing done. There's many reworkings and reversioning of Gilbert and Sullivan's works, but this is the first time I've seen it taken out and then reinserted in the nicest possible way. How much did you spend time thinking about that?
We took a quick look online. I think we thought someone might have come up with the idea of putting new lyrics to their songs to do a sort of comic biography, but it turns out actually we don't think anyone ever has.
No.
So that sort of made us quite excited, and we thought we'd go ahead with it.
I think the thing is we're fans first, and so that sort of was quite an exciting idea for us.
I suppose that actually is a question we ought to ask. How many of you of the four actually have any kind of Gilbert and Sullivan interest before you turned up today, as it were, or arrived at the show?
We're all members of the Gilbert and Sullivan Society in Exeter University.
Oh, what wise and sensible people you are. At the moment I saw you all, I knew I was in the presence of geniuses.
Yeah, I mean, that said, my background has always been in more contemporary musical theatre, and Detty...
Post-19th century?
Well, yes.
Dangerous living, man.
I know, it's amazing. And just got dragged into it, really, by Detty this year, and she asked me to be the musical director of the society, and then it's gone on to...
It's spiralled.
It has spiralled out of all control.
Can I just ask, by the way, in terms of the fact that you have some Gilbert and Sullivan interests yourselves, did your parents also have it? Because I've heard Gilbert and Sullivan fandom described as the hereditary hobby.
Yeah.
But it's not true for me. I came in of it on my own accord when I was 18.
Certainly for me, my parents and my grandparents have certainly got it from them, but I'm not sure about the rest of you.
I hadn't heard any until the age of 18, 17, 18 maybe.
Mm-hmm. No, before I was asked to be the MD last year, I hadn't seen any. So Pirates of Penzance was my first last year, actually.
And no, when I was, I think, my second year of university, I'd never heard of it before. Tom coincidentally came up to me and was like, "Do you like musical theatre?" Dragged me into it, and there I was. I know. And there I was, 2 years of Gilbert and Sullivan Society at Exeter, and now here. So great, that's where it began.
So you've got the idea, and it's a great idea, it really is a great idea, but there's a world of difference between having a really great idea and then being able to put something down on paper that you think is going to work. But then, so what is the next step once you've actually, because are you going to take the words, or are you going to rewrite words? Because, I know the answer to this, I've seen it, but, what were you proposing to do? Was there ever a time where you were going to dump Gilbert and Sullivan?
No, there was no point where we were going to rewrite music. I think we thought it was sacrilegious enough to change the words. That anything else was a bit much.
Yeah, that was all in place quite quickly, actually.
Yeah.
It's one of the first things we decided that you're more musical than me, certainly, but we'd have no chance of getting anything towards the work of Arthur Sullivan. But we thought we could probably rewrite Gilbert's words.
I must warn you, I'm more of a Gilbert fan than I am a Sullivan fan. But I appreciate, as it's a musical rather than a revamping of a GNS operetta, I'm quite happy that that needs to be done. I'm going to tell you now, it's the most successful show of its kind that I've ever seen.
Thank you very much.
Forgive me, I've seen some of the others. No, seriously, I'm not trying to damn you with faint praise, I'm trying to praise you with faint damns. No, it was excellent. It was a genuinely great show, cleverly thought out. But how did you work out? How did you boil down the lives, and then work out how to tell the story? Because the word writer here is an interesting one.
With a lot of artistic license.
A lot. We did read at least some of one book.
Biography.
We read all the bases of the best of autobiographies.
And we watched a bit of a film.
We did watch a bit of a film.
Topsy-turvy by any chance?
I watched a bit of that, but we watched The Story of Gilbert and Sullivan. It's
the Peter Finch one by Lawrence and Gilead, 1953,
something like that.
Robert Morley played Gilbert.
Yeah, and but I think the thing that we've really enjoyed is that we've really enjoyed doing the show, and we've enjoyed writing something for people who we sort of... Gilbert and Sullivan fans are normally quite nice sort of people who do want to see things that that they enjoy, and so we've enjoyed trying to find
push
things
the envelope a bit as well.
Things that interest us as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they aren't true representations.
Not
they
in the
are,
slightest.
Well, no, I mean, there's the general thrust points of the lives, aren't there? But some of the, you know, this is in no way meant negatively to you as an actor, but I think some of the finer complexities may have been dropped.
Yeah, there's not a lot of subtlety in this role.
So, how did you approach Gilbert then?
Well, I read the script and that really said it all. Actually, I missed the first read through, so I was sitting at home in bed reading it, and obviously we all do sort of drama type things a lot, and I've read a lot of scripts, and I was actually laughing out loud, which doesn't happen very often. So
in bed, no.
Very much so. But yeah, just the words are so ridiculous themselves that you've just got to play it like that, I think, and let the whole persona grow from that sort of craziness.
But you took it from the text before, you know. Forgive me,
yes.
You did what proper actors do, which is you drive from the narrative, so you build up from there.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Did you go off and actually then do any Gilbert research as well?
No.
Have you read the Crowther book? Or
no.
Because there's a brand new Crowther biography about Gilbert, which came out 2 years ago to celebrate the 100th anniversary of his drowning.
Okay, right.
Well, that's lovely.
Yeah. Well, his death, as we all call it. But yeah.
No, I thought because it is just a sort of satirical musical, rather than trying to be an accurate representation, it's just better to present this crazy character and let the script speak for itself. Right.
So let's talk about tone then. I mean, when as a group did you decide what the tone was going to be? I mean, because, you know, if you were to ask me what word really comes across, I'd say enthusiasm, and then if you ask me what words came across, and I've just realised I've only used the singular, I would say enthusiasm and fun. I mean, that's what I got out of it. I had 50 minutes of absolute joy.
And I think that's what we had to put into it. We had a lot of enthusiasm for the subject matter, and we wanted to have fun.
I think we were, before anything, absolutely terrified of sort of being too serious. Yeah, we didn't think we didn't want people to think we knew everything about Gilbert and Sullivan, and we wanted people sort of to be on the ride with us and to take in all the in-jokes and that sort of thing, really, and just have a laugh, really. More important.
One thing that the directors told us right at the start was that nothing we as actors do would be too big. Exactly, and if it was, then great, then we're doing it properly. So that was really the approach.
Well, I mean, forgive me, it's got pots of energy all the way through, which must come from the narrative first, but from the direction, the choreography, and of course from the performers. Sometimes those energies can go off in different directions. Not in this. So how did you make sure you were all on track and on parallel lines, if not necessarily touching?
I don't know.
Innate genius will do as an answer.
I suppose
We just
the fact
knew.
that we're quite a close group as well, that we were all sort of along the same lines and wanting to get the same thing out of it helped a great deal in getting everyone on the same track.
Yeah, I think when everyone first read the script, when we did first read the script, I think they all read it like we wrote it.
Yeah.
Really?
I thought in bed.
Yeah. No, I remember our first reading of the script. I don't think anyone but Tom and Detty had read it before, and we all of us in this room, we were just laughing every other line, and I think that's what's great, because that's what we're getting back from the audience. All those times that I remember seeing that line and being like, "Oh, ballad about a bucket," and then the audience laughs. I think that's what's really great. Yeah.
And your energy, if you don't mind me on stage, you know,
yes.
Gilbert and Doyley Carp, between the two of you, are just powerhouses of energy against the sort of the still rock of Sullivan. I mean,
yes.
Sort of the characterisations being portrayed. Yours is a spiky energy as well. But,
okay.
Forgive me, how do you draw that upon yourself? Are you naturally bouncy? Your colleagues may wish to answer before you do.
Well, usually, I mean, after the performances here, for the rest of the day, I'm a bit more low-key, but yeah, generally, I'm quite
A positive person.
bouncing off the walls anyway.
I've never seen you be so bendy. Like, you were so flexible. That was something I learned about Joe.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Well, there's something you can treasure for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll maintain that.
But, you know, there's a lot of dance in this piece as well, you know. I mean, so how do you choreograph Victorian music with 21st century lyrics? Good luck.
I really don't know. I think my choreography was sort of a mixture between old dance classes, things like shows I've been in myself, just a strange mixture. The cast have chipped in and just sort of taken the characters and what would they do, and obviously Josh's dance moves are a lot more energetic than the rest of the cast, but yeah, just trying to sort of play on the stereotypical characters that you get in Gilbert and Sullivan, like the chorus girls, trying to bring back those old dance moves and things like that. Yeah. So with great difficulty, probably.
But boil that down, that's nice.
But yeah.
But there's also a great deal of fun, isn't there? Because in some senses you're recreating, or at least partially recreating, some of the scenes that we've seen in dance forms as well. I mean, we get the fabulous three little girls with two female members of the chorus plus Gilbert joining in because he's having a bit of fun. Now that's, first of all, it's great to see a fella doing that along with him. Thirdly, you brought out, forgive me, you Josh, bringing out your fan suddenly got a huge roar of applause. I mean, that was a great moment. And then of course you're actually sort of doing a Three Little Girls kind of routine.
Yeah.
Did you go back to, this is an open question, did you go back to original Doyle Cut recordings, or did you just your imagination from it, or what you saw in Topsy Turvy? And then how did you as a man feel that you were able to add to that comedically, I'm assuming?
Yeah, not too difficult actually to play a woman.
The beard must get in the way.
Yeah, that's a new addition for this show.
Yeah.
I don't know really, yeah, just I've got no idea really.
I suppose the fun of it is that he is being he is just filling in the third girl's part, so it was supposed to be sort of not authentic, but a sort of traditional representation of Three Little Maids, and then just to throw in Gilbert with them as well.
A twist.
Yes.
Which you did a literal twist in the dance, I seem to remember
Probably.
in one of them as well,
Yeah.
when you were talking about the plots.
Yeah.
Now, coming back to the lyrics and the words, when you're, there are songs that do things, content dictates form, and sometimes airs and all this kind of stuff. There's a lovely song where you're actually describing, well, first of all, the tropes you've spotted in Gilbert and Sullivan operettas anyway, how to write the formula. That's a great song between Gilbert and Sullivan. And then there's several songs which précis entire plots. There's the Yeoman of the Guard, I think, is sort of boiled down.
Yeah.
Forgive me. How do you do that in a way? I mean, if your knowledge of Gilbert and Sullivan is extensive but not exhaustive.
Yeah.
So how much did you have to put in to get the bare bones to boil it down? Had you spotted the tropes?
I think we had. I think to an extent we've spent a lot of time in the society together and sort of talking about things like that and finding the things that we find funny and things that we find reoccurring. And I think once you start noticing them, you start noticing them more.
Well, a lot of what we say isn't new.
Yeah,
is it?
no, not at all.
Oh, no.
No.
Going back to mix up at births and all that sort of stuff.
Well, Pirates itself is just a reversioning of HMS Pinafore in so many ways. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is in some ways. Yeah,
But with a beach.
So yeah, I think we just used our experience.
Yeah.
Really.
If there's any help, you probably know, or you may have known, that you had some of the cast of the Assassins cast in your audience today in the red t-shirts, and they were outside and I was earwigging their conversation and they were saying that was marvellous. It did everything that we wanted. They were also members of their Gilbert and Sullivan Society.
Right.
Oh, I see.
I heard them say the rest of the cast wouldn't have enjoyed it, but we loved it. They said, and it's everything that we love about Gilbert and Sullivan, which is that we love Gilbert and Sullivan, but we also can see its limitations and not flaws, but where it's it shows it's working, as they used to do in exam papers, and they really picked up on that and were really raving positively about that outside, hopefully in a loud voice to draw more customers. How's it being received?
Really well. Yeah.
You sold out. There wasn't a seat in the house.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have got the name Gilbert and Sullivan.
Yeah, and it's out of copyright, so you can use it.
Yeah.
We certainly can. We certainly can. We've had loads of brilliant. Brilliant audiences.
Feedback,
People have come up to us at the end when we've been trying to get out of the theatre really quickly.
Yeah, you got the traditional 5-minute strike.
That's it, yeah. And everyone's been really nice, and they've said it's wonderful, but I suppose they're
going to, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. They're not going to come up to you and say it was terrible.
But are they? I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, how the world of Gilbert and Sullivan fandom has changed, because it was only even 30 years ago the joke about Gilbert and Sullivan fans were they would not allow any change. They sat there reading their libretto as they had done on the in the 1870s and 1880s as it was going on the first night. They hated any kind of change. I mean, I don't know if you read any of the books, as the Leslie Bailey book was written before Gilbert goes out of copyright, I think. And so the last chapter is, oh Lord, what's going to happen? It's going to come to an awful end if I not, but it will. It's all very dramatic stuff. Yeah. And then, of course, none of that happened, and it's had leases of life. But now it's a much more flexible, excitable, and the people involved and the fans, I find, much more flexible. Have you had that? Or have you had any, no, sacrilege people?
That's exactly what we were worried about, I think.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't want to change too much.
No, I think we wanted it to come across that it wasn't a sort of a trying to be the new Gilbert and Sullivan by any stretch.
And nor is it an assassination.
No, that's what the sort of fine line we were trying to stay between, I suppose.
Yeah, I think the only thing we could have done to please those sort of people was sort of fit the already songs about Gilbert and Sullivan around a plot, which I don't think would have worked particularly well.
You don't want to please those kind of people.
No.
They're stuck in that past, and soon we'll be part of it.
Yeah.
But has anyone come up and given you any negatives? I'm not fishing here. I'm hoping they haven't.
No, there's only been one sort of semi-negative review we've seen, which was still a good review, but it was just he'd seen another show which does a similar thing, and it said about this one is just, you know, a shame they'd rewritten the words because you can't improve upon Gilbert's originals. And then on the other show he sort of said, this was a similar thing to what I've seen before, in brackets, but at least they kept the same words. So there is that sort of component of people, but it's definitely not the majority.
So there has been this other show in Edinburgh, as you say. Their version of what they wanted to do was to take songs wholesale, but unfortunately they weren't prepared to change words very much at all, and so they were out of context with what they were doing. So actually that jarred a lot more with this. I think if you've been pretending to write an opera and presenting it as a new Savoy opera, then yes, I think I would have been horrified by your lot of Gilbert, because I love Gilbert. But you weren't doing that. I tell you why I'm so happy with it. It's because I think of it as a new piece, which is being a biopic musical. So that is what it is first. It just happens to be using the story of Gilbert and Sullivan with the music by Sullivan. And that seems to me to work fantastically, which is why I genuinely say again, but you are the best of your type. Which sounds so damning, doesn't it? But it's not supposed to mean that way. Of the children of Gilbert and Sullivan, you are the best.
Wow. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
But it's interesting you said, but everyone else has been really positive.
I've been surprised. Obviously, we go out and advertise the show on the Mile and such like, and I mean, we get lots of the older generation in to watch the show. Obviously, they love GNS, but I've been amazed at how many young people around our age will take the flyers and say, "Oh, Gilbert and Sullivan, I love this." That's been a big surprise to me, but encouraging, I suppose.
Well, very much so. It also means that if you do this again in 10 years' time, there'll be a new generation waiting to come and see it. Is it the kind of thing that you're going to take on somewhere else? Did it have a lease of life before you got to Edinburgh, or was it, this is you've just given birth?
Just given birth to it, really. And
what lovely children you have.
And I suppose, not knowing how it was going to turn out, we haven't got any plans for it.
Yeah, no. We're very happy for it to be a 2013 Fringe exclusive, aren't we? I couldn't quite pronounce that. Fringe exclusive.
That's easy for you to say.
Yeah, we hadn't really made any plans, had we?
No.
I think you really ought, if you don't mind me saying. I mean, you're aware of the Buxton Festival, of course, which goes on at exactly the same time as the Edinburgh Festival, and therefore I cannot go to it. Listen up, organisers. Forgive me, this is, if whether there be take-up or not, but this is the kind of thing you might seriously think about, licensing or making available. Have you recorded any of the numbers? You haven't got any recordings?
No.
You're making us sound terrible.
What have we done?
No, it's something we might be able to do in the future. I think if we were going to take it anywhere, it would certainly be Buxton. That would be our first stop.
And your university? I mean, you haven't graduated yet, have you?
Just graduated.
Damn you can't go back. You never can. Oh, right, so you've got to do something with this then. Yeah, but you really ought to think about it, because it's a great show. It really is a great show. I feel enthused by it, and I'm not sure. I went in with slight trepidation, but now I've seen it, I know that it is the bee's knees. So what next for you all, either in Gilbert and Sullivan land, or in musicals, or in real life? On the spot.
Nothing. I'm moving down to Exeter and setting up life there.
Oh, really?
Oh,
jolly good.
That's my plans.
So, will you keep your finger in theatre and musical theatre in some way?
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, there's an Exeter non-university Gilbert and Sullivan Society, so I imagine I'll be involved in that in some way.
I wonder if they'll be doing Gilbert and Sullivan the musical, because the thing is, when you're doing trial by jury, you need a one-act piece to balance it, don't you?
You do.
It is true.
We know that well. Yeah, we tried to pad ours out with Christmas carols.
Yeah.
It's quite successful.
And it was summer.
Well, there you are then. It's the perfect balance.
Yeah. I think I'll take a break from Gilbert and Sullivan. But I know, only for 6 months or so. Then I'll dive straight back into it. I've been living Gilbert and Sullivan for
which is something
a number of years now. Yes, certainly. Yeah, I don't know really. I haven't really thought past the Fringe. I was so focused on getting our show up and making sure it was good that I'll put some thought into it later, I think.
You certainly have, if I may say.
Yeah. I am going to be training as a teacher next year,
right.
and I've just got a part-time job as well in a theatre school, dealing with the music there. So yeah.
So you're going to keep your finger in the world of theatre?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Is it rude to ask which city?
I'm training in Exeter. Yeah.
Oh, I see. It's the draw. Well, you went.
Yeah.
I don't really have a lot to say. I just don't really know at the moment. Having just graduated, I'm sort of torn between staying in Kent, which is my home, and moving back to Exeter. But yeah, still need to decide really. I love the theatre, and I think that's where my home is. But I just don't know what might happen.
However, I do think it would be lovely to see you all together or apart sometime at future Fringes. Is that likely? I mean, do you think now you've had the Fringe?
Yeah.
You know, has it got its hooks into you?
We've been up. Well, some of us have been up a couple of times, so the Fringe is sort of always going to be a pull. And yeah, I mean, I'd love to be coming here for as long as I can, but you never know, do you?
Yeah, it's been my first time actually, so it's been quite an experience. Very busy, but yeah, definitely like to come back again.
Yeah, this is my second year up. I came up with Detty's show last year.
Which was?
It was the Canterville Ghost at Greenside Venue.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I'd love to come up again. But Detty, yeah.
Write something out.
Yeah, I think you get the Fringe bug.
Yeah.
So it's the most exhausting and exciting sort of 3 weeks of your life. There's always something going on. There's always somewhere to be. I haven't slept.
Badly cooked food to eat.
Battered chocolate.
Yeah. Everyone lives on biscuits and tuna sandwiches. That's all I can see. Finally, then, if other people are interested in putting on Gilbert and Sullivan the musical, is there a contact address?
There is. It's sittingdecktheatre@gmail.com. You can also contact us on Twitter. We're at G&S Musical.
Well, can I say, I think it's a fabulous show. I enjoyed it immensely, and it's been such a pleasure talking to you, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Well, my thanks to Detty Ellaby, Tom Scallon, Joshua Clark and Nicola Cos for their time and for putting the show on. As I said at the beginning of this episode, both of the shows that we're talking about today I saw twice. In Armada's case, over 2 years, and in Gilbert and Sullivan the musical's case, this year. I saw it over 2 separate days. I loved it so much, and I must say that the people were lovely too. Subsequent to that interview, I managed to speak again to both Detty and Tom, and in correspondence with Joshua, and each one of them's lovely. Well, you've gathered I liked it, and indeed I did. I gave it 4 stars and called it a delightful, delicious romp. And to me it feels like exactly the kind of show that should be picked up by somebody else. If you represent a Gilbert and Sullivan group and you're looking to do something that's very much right in the world of Gilbert and Sullivan, and yet is also just a little bit different, then you should seriously think about this show. I sincerely hope that I shall see it again, either performed by those people or again by somebody else. I genuinely think this is a welcome addition to the wider world of Gilbert and Sullivan music and entertainment. And as I said in the interview, if you're putting on Trial by Jury and you need a second show to make up a full evening's entertainment, then Gilbert and Sullivan the musical could be for you. Now, people with sharp minds but blunt humour will have realised that in that interview it became apparent that there was no recording of Gilbert and Sullivan the musical. And yet, you heard a song from a live recording of it before the interview. How can this be? Well, those very sensible people, and full marks for noticing that, by the way, can rest assured that a recording was made. Having heard that no recording had yet been made, and so loving the show and so genuinely believing that it has a future, I actually offered to record it myself. And so that's exactly what I did. I went back, loved the show all over again, and recorded it. And I'm delighted to say that Tom and Detty have very kindly said that I can play a medley of some of the songs from that show, just to give you a feel of the piece and how it develops. So we'll finish today's programme with a fabulous 10-minute medley of the wonderful 4-star Gilbert and Sullivan the musical. Goodbye.
The story of how these men met begins with doily cards. He thought they should begin in a partnership with him, and so our journey starts. Helen is his wife, business partner too, and throughout their strife their empire grew.
just sit for plot. So don't hope for a twist, and there's no need to mention the details we have missed. We're guessing that you're mostly fans, but if you're not, do the best you can. We've got tons of trains, so try not to call, and make sure that your mobile phones are all turned off. Are all turned off. Are all turned off. Are all turned off.
A few of the things they've said of me, this unassuming writer. I'm famous for my humour and I can't resist a caper. Yes, W.S. Gilbert, that's the name you've seen in your newspaper.
Yes, W.S. Gilbert, that's the name we've seen in our newspaper. At least we know.
I met Gilbert once before, and I think we know the score. Had classed his childish wit. Though our show was a success due to me and my finesse, I'm more worthy than the words he writ.
So more shows.
Well, who knows?
Yes, more shows.
Well, maybe more shows.
He enjoyed it more than he'd admit. Love the music, love the man, it's that composer of the Sullivan. Love the music, love the man, it's that Sullivan.
I would make claim, no one's the same as a composer and his wordsmith. What do you say, gentlemen, pray? There's no one you'd be better heard with. No one, no one, no one, no one you'd be better heard with. All of our cares could fly away, all of our talents on display. Every journey has a start. Gilbert and Sullivan and Doyley Cart.
The English stage today lacks rules with which to play. With a musical backdrop, there's nothing to stop us, and sense can just give way. A stuffy baritone seated in a trench or throne. One like an elephant, story irrelevant, all not on who drone.
Finally we concur, a form that we prefer. A story so lucid you'd have to be stupid to fault the formula. The alto battle axe, a face like melted wax. Hairy and corpulent doll, so it's fortunate this top girl can act. The charming maid well bred, confused but soon to wed. Though sweet and so kindly she fluffs up my lines, she'll scream and take your head. Finally we concur, a form that we prefer. A story so lucid you'd have to be stupid to fault the formula.
Keeping us both on track, getting decisions made, working through each setback, mastering every trait, listening every thread, doing what time allows, ready for what's ahead, never to take a bow, never to take a bow. Who makes the ticket sell? Me, and don't they do well? Doyle is all they see, though he is shorter than me. Who makes the ticket sell? Me, and his one brain cell. Things would not be the same if I weren't in the frame. If anyone can stand here and say they deserve a better role, you've got the chance when you can dance. I've seen you try ballet. It's surely me, as you can see. Last week's matinee show is told of the fact that you can act more than get in your way. At least I'm not the chorus girl who's always bad at keeping time. And when they're tempting the high notes, they come out like a shrieking chime to insult all the people near her if she'd simply cheat and mime. You've got the chance when you can dance. I've seen you try ballet. What of the fact that you can act more than get in your way? You want to dance or not to dance or no? So be it. Let's stand aside and you will find out I will get my way. You want to dance or not to dance or no? So be it. Let's stand aside and let me have my way. No, what? No, what? Now let me have my way. No, what? No, what? I always get my way.
they say my plots, they toe the topsy-turvy.
Topsy-turvy.
To which I always reply, you're too kind.
You're too kind.
And now, my friend, you say they are unnerving.
They're unnerving.
But you haven't seen the plots inside my mind.
Inside his mind.
When a man is banned by law to wed his lover.
Wed his lover.
And is just about to take it on the chin.
On the chin.
It transpires, alas, the girl is not his mother.
Not his mother.
And his current wife turns out to be his twin. When there's stories in this theatre to be spun, there's no point unless we're spinning stories fun.
Stories fun.
I've told you my concerns for staying on this ship or sinking, but you do not seem to understand the vein in which I'm thinking. For I know an extra adventure here would bring in crowds a-rolling, but the crowds I know it brings is not touching and not sorting. I want the sort of audience you'd find amongst the masses who would class my work as great with me, and there are borrow glasses. As you have made your mind up, I'm not yet allowed to scatter. I shall surely write another. My opinion doesn't matter.
No, it really doesn't matter.
Your opinion doesn't matter.
No, it really doesn't matter.
No, it clearly doesn't matter.
So let's cast lots of believing in Rosanna chitter-chatter, as I'll surely write another, so it really doesn't matter. Let's cast lots of believing in Rosanna chitter-chatter, as I'll surely write another, so it really doesn't matter.
Now, sit yourself down, Arthur, and have a listen to this. Oh, I have a new gun that will just hit the spot, a death that everyone's fearing. Colonel Fairfax would die and young Phoebe would sigh if it wasn't for him disappearing. There's a man called Jack Point and he won't disappoint. There's no man in this play that is brighter. I think you'd agree. He's exactly like me, a misunderstood singer and writer.
I will take your idea and believe it is true, for since his Jack Point is exactly like you, I'll do it as long as we kill him. As someday it may happen that a victim must be found, I've got a little list of society offenders who might well be underground, who never would be missed. The judge who turns up drunk and then leads everyone astray. I can't remember Thespis because we threw the script away. The sorcerer, where all we learn is true love's just a sham. If the tea puts everyone to sleep, God knows what's in the jam. And everyone on Pinafore who celebrates the switch, they'd none of them be missed. He's got them on the list, and none of them be missed, none of them be missed.
When I built the Savoy, it had once already crossed my mind to provide me constant shows these two men might be disinclined. I sat and thought for days about just what we'd have to do to ensure we'd have a constant stream of audiences through. There seemed to be an obvious solution to select in order for this theatre here of ours to best protect. We'll simply bring back all their favourite shows time and again. Revivals mean another score they'll never have to pen, and that's what we'll do.
That's what they'll do.
That's what we'll do.
We'll keep on producing and always performing, no matter what we find in store. No half-empty sitting, no scripts need completing. We'll show what we've shown here before. Oh, you'll find exciting our recycled writing, although it is just an old score. You'll all keep on coming, the tunes you'll be humming, although you have heard them before. Although you have heard them before.
I am a knight of the king's realm, but don't be overwhelmed. My partner had a small part in the things we do.
I'll remind you that the king gave me a knighthood too.
But despite your sense of humour, he did get his knighthood sooner.
You remind us that the king gave him a knighthood too.
Though a bit of Royalium, I meant he got his knighthood sooner.
For they are two Englishmen, Gilbert and Sullivan.
This episode of Musical Talk presented and edited by Thos Ribbits. Copyright Musical Talk 2013, except for the songs, where the copyright remains with the original creators. And my thanks to those people for allowing me to play their songs in this episode of Musical Talk. And don't forget, if you've nothing else to do, why not follow me on Twitter at Musical Talk Thos.
A few fa-la-las, a bump, a twist, and a happy ending. Clappy, clappy, all go home.